Welcome to Taiwan Talk. I'm Alex Lewis. This week I spoke to Scott Prairie, who along with his wife Mia formed a band called A Moving Sound. A Moving Sound has been praised for fusing traditional influences with a global sensibility. And Scott is here to tell us how it all started.
17 years ago. Actually, we didn't do it right away. She and I met in New York City. Her name's Mia. Mm-hmm. Mia went to New York City on a Fulbright scholarship to study singing, and we met in New York while dancing, actually. And
dancing for a class or a club, or maybe for like a performance?
Well, it's pretty cool. It was a form of dance called contact improvisation. It's kind of like a mix between martial arts and modern dance. And so we were in the West Village doing this class, and we met, and she was only there for 6 months, and at the end it was clear we wanted to live and work together. And then I said, well, what do you think about being in New York? And she said actually she would prefer to live in Taiwan, and then I just said, well, I'll just come and visit. So I came and visited, and then I got here in 2000, and I really liked it, and then decided to move. So then when I did move, I moved back, and at first, my wife is kind of more theater, dance-based, so that was kind of her thing. So we did things that were she and I did stuff that was a little more experimental, and there was some experimental theater series that was held at the basement of Esleet bookstore. Mm-hmm. We did stuff like that. But eventually I'm a songwriter, so I started writing stuff, and slowly we started bringing in musicians. First it was 3, and then 4, and now 5. So A Moving Sound is a group of 5 people, and we use traditional instruments like erhu, zhongran, Chinese percussion, also Western percussion, and we use traditional instruments but create original compositions, and so that's what we do. And, that's the kind of music that we make, and we've been at it basically since a year or two after I moved, so about 15 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So you were trained as a conservatory French horn player. Does that influence the way you approach the music you make now?
I think yes. Being a classical musician, it did really affect the kind of music I make. I guess I think a little bit more theatrically versus than just straight like a pop vibe. Mm-hmm. Classical music, a lot of it has a certain kind of story in it.
Yeah, some sort of tension, right?
Right. So I tend to think a little bit that way, make stories into music. And that actually works out kind of good because music that comes from Taiwan and the Asia and Chinese tradition is also kind of theatrical, versus Western music is more rhythm-driven. Traditional Western music is kind of built on the beat, and a lot of it comes through an African tradition, jazz, blues, then pop, rock, and it's the foundation of it tends to be more grooving. And since I have a classical background, it kind of fit well with Asian music. The instruments, like the erhu, the sound of the erhu, it's very kind of lyrical and almost like a voice. So my style works well with the instruments that have a more expressive. I can make kind of space for them, and so it was kind of a nice synchronicity to have the classical music background. But I also, as I got older, I did a lot of other stuff and experimental music, and even I was a singer-songwriter in New York. But I think having that classical foundation actually made it a even more fertile condition to work with Chinese, Taiwanese instruments.
Tell me a little bit about your creative process. The video you sent, you said that you were inspired by some of the hikes and the walks that you do in the mountains or, next to the ocean and stuff. So that's like some of the ways that Taiwan kind of inspires you.
The creative process. Well,
Yeah, like how do you go from, taking a walk, getting inspired to, putting music on actual sheets and then, composing a song?
well, different people have a different kind of creative style, and I ended up leaving the music conservatory because I really wasn't a sheet music kind of guy. I ended up not wanting to just play music that had already been made, and kind of I like the creative process, and I experience a kind of thing where ideas and music will just pop into my head, kind of sometimes fully formed. Just get these. I think maybe because I have a lot of foundation, so I get ideas, and usually the way it works is I catch them, either by recording them, and then I make a basic foundation. But then it's interesting because the next part is collaborative. I'll get an idea, a musical idea, and then I play two instruments in the group. I play the Chinese guitar, the zhongran. I play that. I learned that since I got here, and then before that, I started to use a bass guitar I use it as a songwriting tool, and so I'll perform. I'll play the idea out and make the foundation, and then I give it to my wife. I say, hey, listen to this, and then the nice thing, I think, what makes our music very rich and points it in the theater direction is her style. She'll hear the melody, and it will give her a story and a picture. And so then she creates her vocal parts and guides the music in a certain direction. And then the next layer is then we take what Mia and I have made to the musicians, and then they will integrate their parts. So, and they all have traditional music school backgrounds, and so they will give it a certain technical flair, and then they all, they're really grounded in this tradition, so they'll flesh it out that way. So that's how it unfolds. Kind of different people bring their own perspective and skills and develop the music.
So your wife, Mia, has been your partner throughout this whole journey. How has your relationship grown over the years, not even just personally, but, musically and as collaborators?
Well, that's $1 million question. It isn't easy always to work with your wife. It's
sometimes you need some space or something.
Just try to imagine it. Yes, it's like it's two people who are with each other 24/7, and it's like, oh, I think it should be this way. But actually, that's the cool thing, is we're both very strong, have a strong creative vision, and that's what makes the music. I think what makes it very powerful, and it's very satisfying that she and I make this music. That for me, it's been quite successful right from the beginning. We have a chemistry, right, that was really there right from the beginning. So that didn't need to evolve. It was just really strong right from the start. I think the aesthetic of the music evolved. I think in the beginning we were more kind of experimenting and trying things out, and like our first CD is a little more playful, all over the world with different kinds of styles and everything. And then the second CD, as we started working with the instruments from here, we started focusing more on Taiwanese music or Taiwanese-inspired ideas. So Mia did something really cool where she took traditional Nangguan singing. If people don't know that, it's ancient music from China, using an ancient dialect, but it's very well preserved here in Taiwan and studied. And she took that style and then created a piece using that style. And then I took the bass and I copied the guqing, and we worked together to create a piece. Another piece might be inspired by an Aboriginal song. Another song is a folk song. And I think so. What I'm saying is the aesthetic of what we do kind of evolved as the longer we work together.
I see, kind of like melded.
Yeah.
So then you started focusing on more traditional instruments and more, things like that.
Yeah.
So you're kind of bringing Taiwan music, Taiwan instruments to the world stage or to the international audience. How has that been received? I know you just recently went on tour in the United States, correct?
Yeah. Well, that's been really wonderful. Is the international audiences? A lot of them haven't seen the instruments before, and especially if most of them have not. We play in big world music festivals or theaters, and it's likely they didn't see them, and since they are thrilled. They really just love the unique sound of the instruments, and then because the musicians we work with are so skilled, it just kind of blows their mind. And it's interesting because sometimes we play in all kind of festivals, but since it's acoustic, we even get occasionally play in a folk festival when people see it almost like folk music because of the acoustic instruments, and we just basically just kind of blow people's minds. They just really enjoy what we do.
Do you have any upcoming tours and concerts?
Well, now this winter is kind of our break. We've been kind of going nonstop since last summer. We did 1 month where we were the resident group in Ilan. There's a traditional music center there in Ilan. We were there for a month. And then we had a bunch of projects in Taiwan, and then we took off for a month. And we've only been back for maybe 3 weeks. And winter is usually kind of time off. So I'm lucky to be taking a break. Now, it's also the time where next year's touring is being put in place. We did get a very nice a nice invitation. There's something called the World Music Institute. It's based in New York City, and they select groups that they want to present, and they'll pick the right kind of venue in New York City. I've been hoping to get presented by them for a long time, so that would be nice. And it'll be in a theater, and we tend to do a lot of universities, especially in the U.S. We do a lot of university art centers, and we're likely going to return to one university in University of North Carolina in Asheville. They have a great art center. We performed there 4 years ago, and we're going to return. It looks like probably October, and we perform there and to do a residency and teach. We also do a lot of teaching when we're at universities. So we have 3 lined up for the October of next year so far.
Okay, very cool. And do you have any upcoming projects being released, like another album coming out?
We have the next idea is we're going to give my wife a chance to develop her vocal style a bit and let her lead the way. Often, as I described, it's kind of like me. I started off, then Mia develops, then the musicians. This time, we're going to let her start the project. Actually, her vocal style is pretty unusual. It's worth checking it out on YouTube or what. Most of what she does, people will come up to her after the concert and say, what language are you singing in? And the truth is, there's some, maybe if we do 12 pieces, one piece will be in the Nangguan dialect, one piece will be in Taiwanese dialect, a folk song, and then maybe an Aboriginal piece, and then the rest of them are, she makes up a language. She just creates her own language. When I met her in New York, she was there for an experimental voice workshop. So she has a very unique approach to singing and composing. So the next project will be her guiding her from her perspective the song compositions and styles, and so that's what's on the table is a Mia project.
Okay, is this the first time it's going to be a Mia project?
Yes, we have 3 other CDs, and I mean they all are very collaborative, and in each one she created 1 or 2 pieces, but this coming one will be all hers. And she's gotten stronger and stronger over the years. She also is a great teacher. She does workshops in Taipei. They're interesting. They're about exploring yourself through the voice. It's a voice workshop, but it's really not at all about technique. It's totally about opening your experience of yourself through hearing your voice and collaborating with other people in a group using games and techniques and sound meditations and all kind of stuff. It just helps us to feel ourselves in a bigger way. So that's how she approaches the voice. It's very deep, personal self-exploration.
That's really awesome. Speaking of self-exploration, I understand that you are also a painter as well as a composer. Tell me a little bit about that, like how your painting has influenced the other aspects of your art and just painting in general here in Taiwan.
I guess the way it's worked for me is I feel like it all kind of comes from the same place, whether it's painting or music composition, or my wife and I still dance. We still do the same kind of dance form that we did when we met, contact improvisation. Luckily, there's a really wonderful center. They call it a jam. Basically, people get together and dance, and it happens here in Taipei.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I was going to say is that I feel like all the creative work, it all comes from the same center, kind of like spokes coming out from the center of a wheel. They're just kind of different channels of connecting with some energy or some feeling, and you can send it out through your body by dancing or through sound or through visual. I mean, as I've been in Taiwan, I did some exhibitions when I first got here in the early 2000. I did some exhibitions there, and but I pretty much have moved more towards. I got pretty focused on the music. I found, especially to make a living, I found I really had to focus on both the creative side, and then I've done a lot of the business side too. So that's a lot of work. So I pretty much do music, and then I do dance kind of for fun, and so I kind of just doodle now and then. I haven't done serious painting for a little while.
Okay, well, it just seems like you're leading a full creative life then, having all these outlets.
I'm lucky, and being in Taiwan, it was such a great thing I never really planned to leave New York. I wasn't really. Some people have a certain hunger to come to Asia or to travel, and I was just kind of doing my own thing in New York, and then just this idea to come here and be with Mia and explore was just kind of came out of left field, and I'm really grateful that I did, because it just expanded me exponentially. And on so many different ways, I grew a lot as an artist and as a person, just to step out of your familiar culture, and then I just got really lucky that Mia is Taiwanese and just landed in this place that's it's such a kind. The energy I experience here is just very kind and fertile, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a good time to come here when I came in 2000. Our group kind of, I think, helped spark a more free form creative process for other groups too, and so it was a nice position to be in, to help inspire people to kind of plunge more deeply into their own creative process and express themselves. And so it's been really a very rich experience to be here. I'm really glad.
I'm glad to hear that. And lastly, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that I haven't touched on?
Yeah, that point about just really loving being here. I mean, it's nice to be in a place because, we've been at it for a while where the fear factor is totally gone. To be an artist, for all artists, it's a pretty scary proposition. It's kind of, is anything going to happen? Am I going to get any opportunities? And it takes a lot of courage to try to cultivate performance art or any kind of art in the world. And so my hat's off to people that are giving it a shot. But at this point, Mia and I have had a very full career, and grateful that it's still rolling, but the pressure's off. So it kind of leaves me in a place I can try more things, more collaborations, and even explore other channels of creativity. And I'm just glad to be where I'm at, both in being in Taiwan and personally open to lots of things. I think that's all I want to say. Thank you very much to Alex Lewis, for having the inspiration to invite me to share my story and share it with ICRT listeners. I really appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for your interest.
Thank you to Scott and Mia for coming on Taiwan Talk. The music in this episode is, of course, provided by A Moving Sound. The opening track is called Dombra, and this track right now is called Kuchin. You can find their music online by searching A Moving Sound. Thanks for listening, and talk to you again at the same time next week. I'm Alex Lewis.
Chi